Well, I think it's interesting on the day that Joe Biden gives a speech at the UN and talks about building back our relationship with our allies. That happens to be the same time that the Democrats in Congress are undermining our best friend and ally, the state of Israel, saying we're not gonna have this funding for the Iron Dome, which protects which is a critical part of their security posture there in that dangerous part of the world. So how can he be building back our relationships with our allies when France pulls their ambassador a couple days ago? Today, the Democrats take out funding for Iron Dome in the appropriations bill. If that's building back our relationship with allies, wow, that's pretty crazy. But that again, this is just kind of typical for the Biden administration and the Democrats running the United States Congress.
We know how important that was. It's been used time and time again, not only during the Iraq War they used it, but it's even more recently, within the last maybe year or so. The Palestinians were firing rockets into Israel, and the Iron Dome system cut off those rockets.
We've been to Israel 5 times, and this is a young person in the Israeli Defense Force, the IDF, who is there looking at the screen, and when they see a rocket come from Hamas or Hezbollah, they got just a few seconds to decide, is that rocket going to land in the Mediterranean, or is it going to hit a population area in the state of Israel? And they have to decide. And then when they decide to shoot off the rocket, the Iron Dome system, to take out the terrorist rocket coming in, that is of critical importance to Israel's security. And the idea that the Democrats are going to pull this out of the funding bill, just again, but this is the same Democrats who Joe Biden told us it was an extraordinary success when 13 servicemen gave their lives, Americans left behind, allies left behind, and $90 billion of equipment and weapons left behind, and they define that as an extraordinary success. So I guess this is just how radical today's Democrats have become.
Additionally, Congressman, we sent $64 million to Afghanistan recently. Taliban says that's not enough. We spend somewhere, I believe the number, if I'm not mistaken, in the $5 billion of foreign aid at some point. Meanwhile, we're going to spend all that on countries that frankly hate us, but the one ally we have, our eyes and ears in the Middle East, Israel, we're going to pull Iron Dome funding that they really need and want.
Yeah, let's help our friends. One of my colleagues has a great line. He says, we don't need to pay our enemies to hate us. They'll probably do it for free. So, so let's help our friends. Let's help our allies. And if Joe Biden's serious about the statement he made today in front of the world at the UN about building back these relationships, I think they were, think about this. Under President Trump, he promised to put like so many presidential candidates, he promised to put the embassy in Jerusalem, and he's the only one who would do it. He did it. He had the Abraham Accords. Contrast that with the actions the Democrats are taking today. That is the difference. That's the distinction. That's, again, I think that's what the American people see, and it's why Biden numbers are down, and why I've said many times I want President Trump to run again.
Now, I got an idea. Why don't we spend some of the money that they're trying to save on Iron Dome? If you don't want to give it to Israel, let's put it on our own border. Let's make sure our border is safe and secure. How do you handle what we're seeing?
Let's do both. Let's help Israel.
Yeah, why not? Right. No, help Israel, help secure our border, and you know what? Screw the rest of the world, the $5 billion we spend on foreign aid. You're right. We don't have to pay these people to hate us. They'll do it for free. How do you make sense of what's going on in Del Rio, Texas?
You can't. This is, again, when you take away the policies that worked and you tell the world that basically the border is not there. We have now what Secretary Clinton called for 5 years ago when she talked about a borderless hemisphere. We now have that. The only conclusion anyone with any common sense can reach is this is intentional. This is deliberate, because I've said this probably in every interview, Eric. March was the highest month on record for illegal crossings until April. And then April was the highest month until May. And May was the highest month until June. And June was the highest month until July, when 212,000, that single month alone, record. And then what happened in August? Oh, it went all the way down to 208,000. My guess is it went down to 208,000 because we missed people. There were more people who came across that we just didn't see because we were busy dealing with the Afghan situation as well when those people are coming here. So that's the pattern. There is no way to interpret all that in any other way except to say, this has to be deliberate. This has to be deliberate. And now for them to say, oh, the border is controlled. They're saying that when our eyes are showing us pictures right on your network and others showing they're coming right across. So it's ridiculous, but this is the Democrats, and this is the radical left that control that party.